the hell just happened? Yeah, I'll be straight with you. I started making some of these videos just for fun. I like to talk about nerdy stuff like this. I've been playing Warframe for way too long. Spent way too much time doing this stuff. There's just a lot of things that I know and that I've put together over time. I thought it'd be fun to just make some videos and talk about them, put them out there. Maybe a few people would find them and enjoy them and find some interesting new things to try out. That's all I thought was going to happen. Not getting over 8,000 views on a video just out of nowhere, which is just bonkers to me. It really is. I'm not numb to numbers. Like, I know it's easy to just think in YouTube terms that 8,000 views is not a big deal. And just generally speaking, sure, but when we're just talking about one random dude with a headset talking about Warframe stuff in his spare time, 8,000 people deciding to watch a video that came across their feed that I made, it's almost kind of hard to wrap my head around. So I really do appreciate all of the views that came through, and especially I appreciate the comments that were left on that video as well, this original Volt video. Both because there were some nice things said, which I do appreciate. It's nice to hear that everybody was enjoying what I made, but also because there were some good comments in there that reminded me of some things that I did not mention, and some things that I did not know about. So I'm not going to pretend like just because I've played a ton of Warframe that I know absolutely everything that there is to know. There are so many little niche interactions and strange things that happen in this game. It's almost impossible to truly know everything. So I really do appreciate all of the extra information that you were giving me on that video, which is why I decided to make a second video for this, make a follow-up where I can try and make this as much of a comprehensive guide to this whole ridiculous Volt Swarm Kavat build as I can. It's always possible I might miss a couple of things along the way. I did make a list this time to hopefully cover all of my points that I want to go over instead of just shooting from the hip like I did last time. But still, I'm just doing this for fun in my spare time, so I might miss something. By all means, don't be afraid to point that out in the comments, and don't be afraid to go down there in the comments and take a look at things. There might be some more information down there that I didn't know, even at the time of recording this. This will be as comprehensive as I can make it, so hopefully, I know for sure we'll get all of the important things covered. We'll get some of the niche things covered. You should know everything you need to know about how all of this stuff works, how to build it, and then you can even do some modifying from there if you want to tweak things a little bit to suit your taste more. There is a lot of flexibility here, which is very nice. So, I really do, again, I appreciate all of the comments. It's just very nice that people enjoyed what I made. It's a nice feeling, even though I was doing it for fun. I'm glad that you liked it, so I really hope that you end up enjoying this one as well. We're going to cover one quick important detail before we start talking about the build specifically, and that is that the swarm cats right now are bugged, and not in a good way. So, right now, the swarm cats will not attack enemies the way they're supposed to. They have a claw attack that they're supposed to use, and you'll see that this guy is not using it. He is just going to stand around staring at enemies until he dies. I have my Panzer's actually doing things right now, but the Swarm Kavat is not doing what he's supposed to do. This applies to everyone, including Inaros, unfortunately. Swarm Cats are just broken right now. They're broken in good ways, but they're also broken in this bad way where they will not attack enemies properly, which ironically means that this wacky build, utilizing Volt and utilizing a bunch of augments, is actually the only way that you can really take advantage of what the Swarm Cats can do at the moment. So let's go over that. I already talked about all the interactions before, so we'll just go over it quickly to make sure we're all on the same page here. We are utilizing Desiccation from Inaros, and we are utilizing Desiccation's Curse. Importantly, we need the augment so that we can get our first cat made, so that we can get this whole snowball rolling and make everything go crazy. And Desiccation needs to be over his third ability. Even though it would be nice to have that shield, it has to be on his third. We need speed and we need shock. I'll talk about those in a second. We don't necessarily have to use discharge, but it is nice. But more importantly, if you put desiccation on Volts 4, it screws with the number of cats that he has. There are so many bugs here. It's just a bunch of bugs, okay? It's a big old moth's nest, nothing but bugs. All of this stuff really should not work, but it all comes together somehow. It's you'll see. You'll see. Hang in there. You'll find out. So, do not replace discharge. It gets rid of the base 3 cats that technically are applied to Scarab Swarm on Inaros. I know we don't have Scarab Swarm and we're not using Inaros. It's buggy, like I said. So if you get rid of discharge, you lose the base 3 cats. If you leave it like this on his third ability, you get those base 3, and you also get +2 from Desiccation's Curse, so you can have 5 cats active at once, which is absolutely what you want, because the more cats are out there, the more damage sources you have running around melting enemies for you. Now this works because of the Shocking Speed augment, which puts an electric aura around yourself and any nearby allies to deal damage. This also seems to be bugged right now, in that, as far as we can tell, this seems to apply damage types from your companions with the aura. Now, I originally thought that this was because the sand cats do corrosive damage, and obviously electric is one of the elements you need for corrosive damage, so I thought that it was just being applied to that. But you'll notice later on the damage numbers that pop up on screen don't seem to actually match the damage being dealt to the enemies. So it seems as though there's even more damage being dealt by the aura that's not really showing up properly, because they melt way faster than they should be if you're just looking at the numbers. This will also apply to the Panzer companion that I'm using. I will show you that in a moment when we get to it. Shock Trooper is something that's, I wouldn't say is necessary, but it is very, very nice, because this just gives a big boost in damage to your companions. You can apply this to everybody around you, same with Shocking Speed. And that damage, when it gets funneled through the Shocking Speed aura, just becomes more corrosive damage, which is super nice to have. And then finally, because 3 augments isn't enough, why not go for a 4th? Let's go for Capacitance for more survivability. Instead of relying on catalyzing shields, which you can certainly do, but then you really need to lean into having additional auger mods, just ditch catalyzing shields, throw on Capacitance instead. This is going to cover your survivability. I am going to show you some things that you can do to make sure you are always absolutely full on energy. You can use this to keep yourself alive. You actually end up getting more time for your shield gate if you're usually using your normal shield capacity, which is nice. And enemies that are constantly shocking other enemies with discharge will continue generating shields for you, which makes it even harder to kill you. Since we're using Volt, there is zero reason why you shouldn't use Archon Stretch. It's just more range and it's more energy generation, which is great. Transient Fortitude, because without utilizing lots of energy restoration, it's actually nicer to have just this flat baseline of 100% efficiency. Auger Reach for more range. The Auger portion of it isn't really necessary at this point, and I actually need to swap that Brief Respite, so ignore that for a moment. But it's mostly just there for the range. Same with Cunning Drift. If you want to mod for PSF instead of Cunning Drift, that's totally understandable. The extra range isn't a huge deal, because it's mostly going towards the aura that you get from Shocking Speed, which is not that big, actually. So we're at 5.7. If we just drop Cunning Drift real quick, 5.25. So you lose basically half a meter of range if you do that, which really is not a big deal. So it's up to you there. Like I said, you do not need to worry about building this exactly the way that I build it. You can pretty much do this however you want. I'm going to go with Corrosive Projection for more armor stripping, because we no longer have green shards. I'll talk about that in a second. The aura is not super important, because we have, with the companions, another way that you can strip armor even more. You're not going to get a complete armor strip with Corrosive Projection and Corrosive Damage without throwing on a green shard in there somewhere, but that's okay. You do not have to completely get rid of enemy armor to kill them with the cats. They do lots of damage. Complete armor stripping is not a requirement. It's just really nice, especially when some hard targets come along. You can pretty much lean entirely on your sand cats and your companions to strip armor and deal damage for you. If you have complete armor stripping, they can take out big targets for you, no problem. As far as the arcanes go, I would say Molt Augmented is the only one that is required just because more power strength is good. It's always going to be good. More power strength means more damage from your cats, so why not? When it comes to your second arcane, again, more power strength, but you don't have to do that. Arcane power ramp is nice on this setup because we're basically always going to be alternating between discharge and speed. Need to keep re-upping the buff on speed to keep the auras active. Need to keep using discharge to stay alive, and occasionally using shock as well. So you can bounce back and forth between your abilities and keep power ramp maxed out pretty easily, and that's another 36% power strength, which is really nice to have. So it's not necessary, but I'd say that's definitely the way to go on that one. You can pretty much slot in whatever you want there. If you feel like you need something else, if you feel like you want to buff a certain type of weapon, if you don't have other ways to restore energy, you can just throw on Energize. There's nothing wrong with that. You could throw on Molt Efficiency for more duration if you want to make your build a little bit more leisurely, not have to cast abilities quite so often. It's definitely flexible here. So the most important things are the triple augments here. Capacitance is what I chose to go with for survivability. You can lean into Augur mods. I was trying that. I just wasn't quite as happy with it in the end. So this is what I ended up settling on. It's a little bit less power strength than what we had before. Well, actually, no. It's a little bit less power strength than what I was testing originally with Blind Rage. But compared to the original build I did on the other video, this is actually a little bit more base power strength. Plus, we're going to get more from utilizing Power Ramp this time, along with Bolt Augmented. As far as shards go, I haven't filled these all in yet because I wasn't really set on what else I wanted to put in. The Equilibrium shard is very nice. This pretty much is going to take care of all of your energy issues. You do still use 100 energy on discharge, but the thing is, you're going to be killing so many enemies, especially in Steel Path, that just picking up some health orbs along the way with that little bit of equilibrium bonus is actually going to help with keeping you topped up on energy surprisingly well. We're going to boost it up even more with the Grimoire just to show kind of a more maximized version of this whole setup. But honestly, you could probably do just this one purple shard and have most of your energy issues covered. If you don't have that, you could throw on Energize, or you can mix and match things however you want to find an energy sustain that works for you. The casting speed shards are really only there for discharge, which is useful not only on this Sandcats build, it's also useful on other builds for Volt that also use discharge because it's just kind of slow. I think those are really nice because it allows you to very easily activate discharge again when your shields go down. You can get it off well within that 1.7 seconds of shield gate invulnerability. It makes it a lot easier to stay alive that way. Now, again, I haven't picked other shards to put in these other two slots, so you can kind of go with whatever you want in here. I might end up doing a couple of blue shards for more energy max. I know normally 300 energy max is fine, but since discharge is still utilizing 100 energy, a little more max energy cushion might be nice to have. If not, if you want to just really lean into the min-maxing of this thing, just go for more power strength. Nothing wrong with that. So as far as the Grimoire goes, I have this just set up on the utility build. Sometimes it's nice to have these auger mods for shield gating builds. We're not really utilizing those right now. It's pretty much just utilizing the tome mods right now to make this even better. So we got Craw for getting universal orbs. That feeds into the purple shard that we have because the universal orbs will give you energy and health. So both of those are going to be boosted by equilibrium, which is really nice. And then Vohm for more power strength because, again, why not? Let's make the cats kill faster. Arcanes don't really matter if you're just doing a utility build like this. You're just utilizing it to throw your alt fire to hit a bunch of enemies to get the effects of your tome mods. Importantly, with Craw, you do not have to kill enemies with the tome, which is why we're not focusing on damage. Enemies that are damaged by the alt fire have that 12% chance to drop an orb. So you just throw it out there, your cats kill them, they'll drop some universal orbs, you're good to go. You can throw in whatever arcanes that you want if you want to put one in there. If you have some conjunction voltage, that's what I would suggest because the alt fire has a guaranteed electric status effect when it hits enemies, which is really nice. So that will immediately buff up conjunction voltage, give you more reload. I don't think the reload speed really applies to the Grimoire, but the more multi-shot does. So there you go. If you don't have an arcane to put in there, don't worry about it. And then, as we talked about in the last video, having a dedicated finisher weapon to get everything started is very useful to have. The best weapons to use for finishers are hammers and rapiers. So I'm going with the Fragger Prime. This is just a typical finisher setup, leaning into as much damage as possible, also using the new galvanized reflex. We're not going to be getting that many finishers, so in this particular case, crescendo isn't really needed at all, but you can use it for other builds that want finishers, so it's there, but it's really not necessary. You're only going to be getting a handful of finishers in a mission anyways, so don't worry about it too much. This does not have to be maximized. Just get something that does a lot of damage and a lot of finisher damage, and you'll be good to go. And then as far as primaries go, there's really nothing that needs to be there. We got pretty much everything covered everywhere else, so in this case, I'm just going to bring something that can do lots of single target damage in case I feel like I need to shoot a big, dangerous bad guy in the face. The other thing that I could suggest that you might want to do is priming enemies with more viral status. I have a setup on here. I know it doesn't have viral damage at the moment, but I have a setup for the Cedo that is just based on dealing lots of status effects with the Alt-Fire Glaive because it has very high status chance. You just launch it out. You have multi-shot that creates multiple glaives that will ricochet all over the place and spread tons of status effects. If you haven't tried this before, you might be surprised at just how good this is at status priming. It's a sleeper. Otherwise, you could just do like the Tenet Glaxion. Primary weapons aren't usually the ones that we're using for status priming, but since we're using the Grimoire, that might be the way to go. Otherwise, you could always use like a typical primer secondary, like the Cycron or the Epitaph or the Kuva Nucor. If you don't want to use the Grimoire, it's up to you there. And then finally, for Companion, I'll admit I have not invested into Companions as much as I should have. I need to do some more, but I have the important things here that I want to talk about. I chose to go with the Panzer because the aforementioned viral statuses are a great way to easily boost damage against targets. So just use the Panzer for viral quills. We also have Duplex Bond and Vicious Bond. So as we were talking about earlier, that Shock Trooper, nope, there's too many electric things to think about. The Shocking Speed aura can apply effects from your companion's weapons. This isn't technically on the weapon, but Vicious Bond works off of companion melee damage. So the aura being applied to enemies from the Panzer does seem to apply Vicious Bond. It's a little bit hard to tell how effectively it works, but again, it's all kind of a big buggy mess in the first place, and it's probably not supposed to be doing this, so it's a little bit hard to figure out exactly how well it's working. We're also combining that with Duplex Bond, because this allows you to get 3 clones of your companion when you spend energy. And this is really easy to do with that flat 100% efficiency by just using Discharge. Pop Discharge, and you have a clone of your pet. It's that simple. That's why I decided to lean into having the flat 100% efficiency to go along with this. So you end up having a total of 4 Panzers running around with an armor-stripping AoE on them, along with 5, or potentially more, with another bug that we're going to talk about once we start the mission, Sand Cavats that are running around doing stuff as well. Knock it off, Warframe. So that's why this build no longer has the green shards on it that we had before. We were using 2 green shards for additional corrosive stacks on the previous setup. I understood that some people weren't a fan of making more green shards to put on Volt because it only really is necessary for this build, and you don't really use it for other builds that Volt is good at. And that's fair, because Volt is probably the most versatile Warframe that we have right now, so taking up 2 Archon shard slots just for one build, probably not the best idea in the first place, so that's totally fine. We got other ways that we can armor strip, utilizing companions to the point where we don't really even have to do anything. So I will give this a quick demonstration before we actually jump into a full mission. You can see what we're talking about here, how all this stuff is going to work. Stun this whole group, get a finisher, get a cat summoned, activate your 2, activate your 1, and now these damage effects will start spreading around. When enemies start dying under the effects of the cat, they will start to create more clones. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, it seems like this can be a little bit slow to start up when you first get into a mission. I'm not really sure why, because I didn't really have issues with it before, but That might have had something to do with the fact that we were utilizing green shards. It really shouldn't make that big of a difference, but it seems like it does. That was a little bit messy, but you know what? It's okay. We'll go into a mission, and I'll be able to show it off much better. The simple fact of this build is that it works better with more enemies, plain and simple. You would think that 20 enemies would be just fine, and once you have your companions up and going, it's no problem, but getting them up and going is the only part that's a little bit tricky and a little bit questionable at this point in time. Once you get it going, you're good to go. And worst case, hey, since we decided we're going to use a dedicated melee weapon for finisher attacks, if your first cat's not cutting it, just make a couple more. Because Desiccation is quick and cheap to cast. It's crowd control. You can one-shot the weaker mob enemies, no problem. Just get a few cats out there, get it started, you'll be just fine.
Scans show Grenier are harvesting Kuva nearby. Set off the alarms to draw them out, then steal their Kuva catalysts. Predictable. As expected, Grenier have shut down the environment.
You can always go with good old Zeneric for some early game energy, but you don't really need it beyond that point, so it's up to you what you want to do. Alright, we're getting the effects spread around, and our counter for the cats went all the way up. You do have a buff counter up top that shows you how many sand cats you have active at any one time. Obviously, as we talked about, the max is 5, so we're just going to keep running around and having the cats attack things. You need to have the cats killing, because when they get the kills, they create more cats for you. Which ironically means that this ends up being kind of a passive build, because you just need to basically run around and guide your cats to the enemies. Keep in mind that you have your own shock aura around you with the shocking speed augment, so you can use that to run into a group of enemies and stun them, get your cats to come along and help you out. See if we can get this guy up here to melt down with the cat damage. Yeah, there we go. This is going to get better as we get more power built up, but just the fact that with this setup, the cats are able to actually deal enough damage to Overguard to take down Eximus enemies pretty easily is really nice. I haven't fired the tome yet either, because I just wanted you to see just how good these cats are. But now let's get the alt fire going out there. We got that extra 60% strength. That is super easy to reapply to your cats, because you just reactivate your 2 and reactivate your 1. You can use them at any time. So as soon as you have your tome mods powered up for that extra strength, you can just activate them again, and you're good to go. Interestingly, we're actually starting to run out of energy here a little bit. It's kind of surprising. Getting like 0 drops from these guys over here. Granted, I have been using probably a little bit more energy than I needed to, but that's part of why we have Archon Stretch, get a little bit of extra passive energy generation. There we go. Alright, so I promised you there's going to be another bug that's going to make this really fun. We're going to let that happen by dying. Yes, we're dying on purpose. But you'll notice when we come back, the cats are still there, and there's no buff counter yet. That's very important. What happens, and this is something else that was pointed out to me, which I really appreciate, if you die with sand cats active, they just stay. They are permanent. So those 5 cats that we had earlier are now permanent companions for the rest of this mission. So now that we have 5 more, we have 10 cats running around with me, along with, if we keep using energy, up to 4 Panzer Volpophilas running around doing armor stripping for us, along with the corrosive damage. Just got numbers happening off in the background. It's wonderful. And as far as I know, this can go on indefinitely. The only real limit seems to be the number of times that you can respawn. So if you want to keep getting more cats, just make sure you have the max number. Let yourself intentionally die, respawn, and just like that, you'll have a bunch of cats. I'm not even going to bother shooting at Angst. I'm just going to wait for him to come along and let the cats get him. If you dare to step into Crazy Cat Lady's Thunderdome, you're going to pay the price. There we go. Didn't fire a single shot, and my cats killed Angst for me. We didn't even get the full armor ship. Apparently the panzers were running around in the wrong area, but that's okay. I'm really not used to using Grimoire, so I kind of just find myself running around smiling way too much at the nonsense of these cats killing everything for me. I should definitely be firing the Grimoire more to get those universal orbs and, of course, the extra power strength. The universal orbs really are nice for better energy sustain. I wouldn't sleep on it. If you're not worried about having a status primer for the setup, and you obviously don't need to be worried about damage output since your cats are doing it for you, you can just use the Grimoire. You're not really losing anything in that case. So let's see if I can actually have some of these guys shoot me so I can go down and have some more cats. Because it's funny. It's really weird having a setup where you actually want to go down. And everything's dying so goddamn fast because of my cats that I'm actually not getting shot that much right now, which is really funny. Like, I actually want to die right now. I want death. I crave it. I can't have it. Because I have 10 cats and a bunch of panzers doing everything for me. Okay, maybe we're just going to be sticking with 10 cats. That's okay. Maybe not. Come on. Come on, guys. Come on. I'm right here. I'm literally asking for it. Nope, they all died too. I want to die. I was struggling with a little bit of survivability with the other setups that I was doing. Now I actually want to die, and my 10 cats are just killing everything so fast that I cannot die. Friends, please. I beg of you. Alright, you're useless. That's too good, man. Here I was thinking that maybe I hadn't fully explored these possible setups. Maybe the whole quad augment idea was a bad idea. No, apparently it was the best idea. I want to die, and it just will not happen. This is too good. This build is just absurdity. It's ridiculousness. It's nonsense. It's insert whatever acronyms you want here. It's not acronyms. What the hell am I saying? I'm getting a little loopy, man. I've been up since 5 a.m. You want to kill me this time, folks? I don't even have enough cats right now. It's not even worth it. My cat counter went down. Crazy cat lady cat counter went down. Alright, I think I proved my point enough here. And do I even have... I don't even have an extraction marker right now. Where the hell do I need to go? Oh, there it is. Okay. Yep, I think I proved my point here, so... I hate this tile so much. So I can actually get my dumb ass out of here. I'll remember it eventually, don't worry. I'm a professional, I promise. Oh, well, isn't that just rude? This is one of the reasons why I like having capacitance available, to just shock enemies and get your shields back anytime something happens like that. There you go. I've actually been thinking about setting this whole thing up for a couple of days now. I just haven't really had the chance to. This is, like I mentioned, it's just something I do for fun. I do work full-time. Actually, most of the time I'm usually working at least 50 hours a week, sometimes more, so I don't have a whole lot of time to do these things always, and I have to wait until the right days to do it. So if you're going to keep watching, first of all, much appreciated. Secondly, I'll try and get things out at least once a week, but obviously I have real-life stuff to do first, so just thought I'd throw that out there. Hope you are enjoying watching this complete nonsense of a Volt build. There are so many goddamn bugs in here that I worry that any bug fixes in the future could start breaking this build and make it not nearly as ridiculous as it is right now. It's so fucking silly. I love it so much. I really hope that it doesn't get broken for a while, because I will absolutely keep using this. I'll take this into whatever missions I feel like. It's just goddamn goofy. I mean, the tape speaks for itself, so I hope you enjoyed Crazy Cat Lady Volt. If you feel like it, go throw this together and go surprise your friends with Crazy Cat Lady. I think it's going to put a smile on everybody's faces.